Well, hello everyone, I hope you're all enjoying your Sunday. I just want to take a quick moment before I get into this video to say a huge thank you for all of the birthday wishes from Friday. It was my birthday on the 18th. I had loads of people get in contact and wish me well, so huge thanks for that. Also want to say thank you to Love Cars for sending me out this wonderful t-shirt. If you're not already following Paul, Tiff and the team on their motoring adventures on YouTube, make sure you get over there, check them out, give them a like, follow and a share, and I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed. But the main reason for this video is to share with you an experience I had yesterday. Now with COVID and lockdown, I've been quite restricted in what I've been able to do in the way of coaching, so really yesterday was the first day that I've had out coaching in a car with a driver since lockdown began. So I travelled down to Plymouth to meet a young driver called Jack. Now Jack runs Jack Fielder Landrover. He is a specialist in restoring the old Defender and changing them out to say a more sporty drivetrain. Now the vehicle we were working in yesterday was the Bowler Tomcat. It would have originally had a V8 in it. He's since swapped that out for the straight six twin turbo diesel from a 335 BMW, and also the Autobox, which was quite a surprise. Now originally I was a little bit skeptical purely because I wasn't sure how the Autobox would work in the off-road low grip scenario with what I'm used to in the past, but I've since been blown away. It actually works really well. Okay, so yesterday was a fantastic experience for me, getting back out there with a new driver in a vehicle I've never worked with before with an unusual drivetrain, and it was really cool to see that everything that I've worked with in the past still worked with the new driver, the new car, and this completely different setup. So the idea behind this video is to give you an insight into how a normal day coaching with myself would run. With Jack, when I first met him, he introduced me to the vehicle, gave me an idea of the setup, which is great. It's always nice to know what you were playing with, but you don't really get to know about the vehicle, certainly from my perspective, until it's moving, until you're in it driving. So initially what we did was said, look, we're going to get out into a field that's just been baled, something that Jack had organised for us. So we had reference points within the field that we could use as trigger points for turns. So we laid out a very simplistic course, and I just asked Jack to drive as he would normally and just pretend that I wasn't there. So it was quite apparent that Jack was certainly no stranger to speed, a very confident high-speed driver, which was fantastic. What we didn't have though was a great understanding or confidence in the utilization of weight transfer to get the car to change direction. So initially we had lots of high-speed approaches with lots of energy being scrubbed off, and then a huge amount of steering and a huge amount of power to get the vehicle to change direction. So I think it's fair to say that it's very simple for anyone to drive at high speed in a straight line. The challenging part always comes in the corners, especially with a four-wheel drive car. So that's where we focused, and you know, so Jack's no different to anyone else I've ever worked with in the past in a four-wheel drive car. Even some of the most experienced four-wheel drive drivers that I've had are often misusing energy, especially on the entry into a corner. So it was a great place to start. What we did then was broke that down into three very distinct areas. So the first part was trying to figure out how much energy we needed to get the car to change direction. How much, you know, I think it weighed roughly 1,400 kilos, this car, with great big chunky knobbly tires, in a field that was quite dry. So it was quite grippy, and as we started to tear things up, it started to get to the point where things would start to dig in and bite, which made some of the corners quite interesting, I can assure you. The energy though was not as high as I expected it to be. The car is actually quite well laid out, and it really did help having that split in the drivetrain. I think we had somewhere near a 70 split to the rear, which was really quite useful. So once the car is actually moving, you can get the power on nice and early, compared to having perhaps a 50-50 split where you'd have to be a little bit more patient. So we managed to figure out the amount of energy that we needed to get the car to rotate. The next part to work on was patience. So once you've initiated the weight transfer element in the car and the car starts to turn, it's really hard not to get involved with that process. So what you tend to see is another steering input, or perhaps an eagerness to get back on the throttle. And we managed to get rid of that very quickly. And Jack was really keen and very quick to pick these new things up and apply them. So once we had the patience element out of the way, the other bit that we picked out was the car has a lot of torque, it has a lot of power. I mean, it could really spin the earth off its axis. It's got that much torque. It just lights the place up, throwing the world up into the sky, as you'll see from some of the footage, I'm sure. The key here was trying to work out the balance between what gear to be in and how much power to apply on the exit. Now, we found that with this particular car, that even on some of the slower exits, we could even be up as high as 4th gear with progressive power being applied, with this thing just absolutely roaring out of the corner without too much of a rooster tail behind, which was really cool. Whereas previously we were bouncing off the limiter in the lower gear, so perhaps in 3rd gear it would just quite happily rev out, but in 4th gear it was actually digging in, biting down, and giving us a massive forward push, which is exactly what we're after. So once we had that, once we had the energy, the patience, and the progressive use of the throttle on the exit, it was clear to see that we'd gone from these massive steering inputs, lots and lots of effort being used, to a very calm and collected small input on the steering, and utilizing the weight transfer in the car to get the car to do the work for us, which was fantastic. And Jack adapted that very, very quickly, as I'm sure you'll see again from the footage. Beyond that, then we had a chance to practice and rehearse that, so that he became very comfortable with it. Now Jack's out competing today. I have no idea how he's getting on. It'd be nice to hear from him a little bit later on, hopefully, to see if he's had the I'm not expecting him to utilize these new techniques straight away, but I'm hoping that he'll have the chance to perhaps dip into that whilst he's out competing today, as his confidence grows in the new information. And also we finished off yesterday by condensing everything together. So where things are far apart, it gives you a long time to think and a long time to plan for what you're going to do next. So we had a series of, say, 8 corners laid out in the field, certainly no more than that, but they were all quite far apart, and that's a good thing when you're learning something new. Now the trouble is, not all corners you'll ever encounter are far apart. So what we did was we had at the final stage in the day to bring a series of corners very close together, so there were just certainly a few car lengths apart. So the first corner would have been a fairly high speed approach, and the second 2 corners were very tight, very close, which required several things to happen for him to get through. So the first thing was conservation of energy. I think the first time we approached it, he had no energy saved after the first turn to be able to carry on in through to the next turn, which was highlighted straight away. He picked it up all in his own. The second one was that as soon as that happened and he realized that he didn't have enough energy, he was very quick to revert back to what he already knew and was comfortable with from his previous driving style, which again is very common. So it makes Jack or any other driver self-aware that the automatic response of your brain is to go back to what it feels comfortable with. And if you're self-aware of those things, you can manage them. If you're not self-aware and you just let them reoccur, they can actually just take over, and you'll be stopped from applying these new tools. So we had a fantastic day yesterday. There was a huge transformation in Jack's driving, in his understanding, and now has a wonderful new set of tools to go and work with. Even in that short time frame that we worked together, he picked up a whole load of new things to go and play with. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on today. Hopefully things have run well and the vehicle's been reliable for him. Certainly the weather at this end of the country seems very nice. I hope he's been blessed that way too. Other than that, enjoy some of the footage from yesterday. Again, thanks very much for all of the birthday wishes, and we'll see you again in the next one. Ta-da.
Yeah.